Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's third video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's third video. It's going to take us to around the 12th of March. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended ECM ensembles and also the extended GFS as well. So that runs around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at CFSV2 for next month. Also, we'll begin by bringing an update with all of the latest developments with our next named storm, Storm Freya. And Storm Freya is going to be giving us a real blow over the course of the next 24 hours. It's going to bring severe gales to western parts of the country, lots of heavy rain, even a little bit of snow mixed in too. So I'll bring an update with all of the developments in a second. Just to say that today's first video was the spring analogues update. So we're in extra time with the spring analogues update. We're looking at springs following warm and dry Februaries. Have a look at that. And it will be placed on the spring updates and forecast page later on today with a written summary, just going over everything that we discussed in the video. Spring forecast will be with you tomorrow. And then we're moving on to summer updates, by the way. Also, the release weekend forecast, of course, so as always on a Saturday, your detailed week ahead look ahead, and quite an interesting week's weather coming up, very different to last week, and very different to the last few weeks, actually, in terms of weekend forecast. Much more lively weather on the way. And that's where we're going to pick up with today's third video. So we're going to start off by having a look at all of the latest information with Storm Freya. So this animation was put out by the UK Met yesterday. We featured this in yesterday's video, but I thought I'd show you it again for today. Just start off with set the scene on what's happening. So UK Met saying hashtag Storm Freya will bring hashtag windy weather to the UK on Sunday and into Monday, and stay hashtag weather aware. So that was the tweet put out by UK Met yesterday. Let's run you the animation and you can see how Storm Freya is going to be developing. There it is, deepening through the course of Sunday, bringing its weather fronts with it. Some very tightly packed isobars too. The arrows showing the strongest of winds. You see that heavy rain pushing northwards with a little of snow mixed in as well, particularly primarily over high ground, but maybe a few flakes could come down to lower levels. They're saying locally 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts, with 50 to 65 mile an hour gusts possible in other areas. So it's going to be wild tomorrow with Storm Freya, so going to be one to keep a very close eye on. There are weather warnings out from the UK Met, not for today, no warnings for Saturday, but if I show you Sunday, you can see where the warnings are. So this is it, particularly affecting England and Wales with these warnings. So let's just click on that and then we can zoom in. So it's really in a large area from kind of like Newcastle upon Tyne in the far northeast of England, going down to southwestern parts of England, Devon and Cornwall, all places in between covered by that yellow wind warning. You'll notice that for East Anglia, southeast England, we are out of that wind warning, and Scotland and Northern Ireland also out of a warning as well. So what are the UK Met saying? Well, they're saying Storm Freya will bring very strong winds with some travel disruption and possible dangerous conditions late on Sunday and into Monday. So the worst winds will actually happen a little bit later on in the day. So in the morning and early afternoon, it might not be too windy at all. You might wonder what all the fuss is about, but things will get more lively sort of late afternoon into the evening on Sunday, and then lasting through into early Monday. They're saying what to expect. Injuries and danger to life from flying debris are possible. Some damage to buildings and trees, such as tiles blown off roofs and fallen branches, could happen. Road, rail, air, ferry services may be affected, with longer journey times and cancellations possible. Some roads and bridges may close. Power cuts may occur, with the potential to affect other services such as mobile phone coverage. Injuries and danger to life could occur from large waves and beach material being thrown onto seafronts, coastal roads and properties. So what should you do about this? Let's see what they're saying about that in terms of what should you do. So you've got a page there. This has all been updated by the UK Met, by the way, in the past few days, so there's a lot more information that that you can look at. It takes you a page that tells you about travelling in storms, rain and heavy wind, gives you various advice and tips, so that's worth having a read of. And I'll leave a link to the UK Met Severe Weather Warnings page in a moment as well. And also, it looks like there's something else for how weather impacts on rail travel. So just click that and see what that takes you to. So that takes you to another page for how weather impacts on rail and travel. You get all of this information. You can have a good old read of. So that's worth having a look at as well if you want to travel on the train tomorrow with this. And then we've also got a little tab of further details, so doesn't look like there's any further details. Reason for update: the warning has been updated to trim the northern boundary of the warning area. So that's interesting. I think that's a new development. I don't think they had that before on the UK Met Severe Weather Warnings page. As they change the updates, you can actually see why they are changing the updates a little bit and where the changes are being made. So obviously from yesterday there's a change being made at 10:27 this morning to move it just a little bit further south, just trim the northern boundary of the warning area. You see, the northern boundary of the warning area is kind of like Newcastle upon Tyne. That's as far north as the boundary area is. Presumably yesterday that warning extended a little bit further north, so that's very useful that they're doing that now, just explaining a little bit the changes that they make day by day as you close in on these events. Also, there's a bit more that says Storm Freya is expected to push quickly northeast across parts of England, Wales and southern Scotland through Sunday afternoon and evening before clearing into the North Sea for through the early part of Monday. Gusts of 55-65 miles an hour are likely, with potential for gusts up to 70 to 80 miles an hour for coastal parts of Cornwall, northern Devon, Wales and northwest England. The highest winds look likely to occur on Sunday evening over parts of coastal Wales and most probably west and northwest Wales. So now that warning is not extending as far north as southern Scotland, interesting. So presumably that's the original warning just there. And then there's been an update made today that's just trimmed the warning area a little bit and taken it away from the far south of Scotland. So that's really interesting what they're doing that now, just explaining where the changes are being made day by day. That is very useful to be able to see. Anyway, we'll leave a link to UK Met Office Severe Weather Warnings page in the description at YouTube. You can get to it from Gaz Weather Vids as well. We don't issue severe weather warnings at Gaz Weather Vids. We're not qualified to do that. Only the UK Met can issue severe weather warnings. So if you are concerned about the impacts of Storm Freya and you need advice on travelling and that kind of thing, your safety, then do check out those severe weather warnings at the UK Met. This is from the weatheroutlook.com. This is showing me high resolution arpege model. And what we're going to look at with this is the wind gust. So it's starting off this afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's already pretty windy actually in the west. We've already got gusts of wind in the west, kind of like going up to 50 miles an hour up some of these Irish Sea coast. Let's see how this is forecast to develop over the next few hours. So winds become strong primarily over Scotland overnight tonight. That's taking us through the early hours of the morning, and we see gusts of wind again, sort of 50-60 miles an hour across the northern western parts of Scotland. And then through the course of tomorrow itself, notice it gets windier down across the south. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, so widely across southern England we're going at sort of 40-50 mile an hour gusts. In the far southwest of England and Wales we're up to kind of like 60 miles an hour gusts, and then those winds intensify through into the evening. So the worst of the winds, 8 o'clock in the evening off the west coast of Wales, where we've got gusts of wind above 80 miles an hour there, That is pretty nasty indeed. A real battering of winds. And then those winds push through Wales into parts of the Midlands. Again, gusts up to 50, 60 miles an hour. It'll be a wild old night tomorrow night. And then the worst winds transferring over towards the north here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning on Monday. 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts have moved through the Midlands into parts of East England, Lincolnshire, southern Yorkshire, into East Anglia. I'm not sure if that could produce a little bit of coastal flooding, but wouldn't be all that surprised if it did, with such strong winds, 60, 70 mile an hour gusts down that North Sea coast. The worst winds then move away through the course of Monday. Say it's quite windy, but no more severe gales through the course of Monday. So looking quite nasty with this. And do keep a close eye on the UK Met Office severe weather warnings over the next day or so. Centering temperature, just to confirm that for February the CET came out at 6.7, an anomaly of 3 degrees above average, so it was exceptionally mild February, coming out underneath 7 degrees as we expected, but certainly very, very mild February indeed. March, the first day of March, is at 7.9, an anomaly of 3.3 degrees above average, so it has been a very mild, exceptionally mild start to March as well. And the Gauss of his March forecast will be released on Monday. Right, so let's do some forecasting. These are the 500 millibar high Tommy flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 85 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue extrapolating to low pressure. So for the 7 to 10 day time frame, which takes us to around the 12th of March, we've got deep area below average heights over to the north of the country. The black lines, a jet stream coming across the Atlantic into Europe, a strong jet, so very unsettled, with low pressure bringing showers or longer spells of rain. That looks like a bit of an Atlantic onslaught, really. And the GFS is identical, or virtually identical. So again, these deep blue colours over to the north of the UK. A strong jet stream rushing across the Atlantic, barrelling into Europe. There is some high pressure down to the south, but it's not in a position to do a great deal for us. So looks like the Atlantic is unleashed in the 7 to 10 day time frame with showers or longer spells of rain. GFS temperature, upper air temperature and precipitation on samples. We're looking at Ipswich next. That's our latest suggested place to have a look at for this section of the video. Please get your suggestions in if you'd like to see your local town or city featured in this part of the video. We are always happy to add you to the list, and we will get round to showing your town and city eventually. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Ipswich. We're starting mild at the moment. Temperatures have come down, of course, from where we was back in the end of February. Nevertheless, we're still milder than average, but we're going to see the temperatures cooling off into the early part of next week, and then generally staying quite cool, really close to average, or maybe even a little bit below par as we go through into the middle, and possibly even into the second half of the month, and lots of precipitation spikes as well. This has been something that's been talked about in the videos lots, so over the past few weeks. So there's going to be regular bouts of rain coming in off the Atlantic, strong winds, heavy rain, showers in between. The Atlantic is back in business, and it's back in business big time after being shut down through most of this winter. The Atlantic is really cranking itself up for the next couple of weeks at least, maybe even longer than that. Temperature anomalies from the 2nd to 10th of March, very close to average. Scotland and Northern Ireland possibly ever so slightly cooler than average. England and Wales possibly ever so slightly above average, but it's not a big deviation either way. We're very close to average with temperature anomalies. Notice it is getting colder across Scandinavia. They've had quite a warm time of it as well, along with the rest of Europe, but it looks like cold air is going to be digging in across Scandinavia in the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies above average, so all of that dry weather that we had through a lot of this winter is gone, and we've got above average rainfall coming up for the UK and for Ireland in the week ahead from the 2nd to the 10th of March. It's a really big change on the pattern that we've had for so many weeks and months. It does make you wonder how long this is going to go on for. Is this the big change that we've been waiting for since last summer? We've been expecting that at some point the Atlantic would be back for an extended period and will start to make up the rainfall deficit. Previously, when we've gone into these unsettled periods over the past few months, they haven't tended to last all that long, just briefly unsettled, and then very quickly getting ourselves back to high pressure. But could this be the fundamental shift in the pattern that we've been waiting for and expecting for the past few months? Is this it? Is this it? Could we go into a prolonged run of unsettled weather? We shall have to wait and see how that develops. But certainly the next couple of weeks are looking unsettled, definitely. So this is the GFS for Tuesday. This will cover by weekend forecast. Of course, on Tuesday, we've got a showery day coming up, and then the next low pressure moves in from the Atlantic on Wednesday, bringing heavy rain, particularly to England and Wales. That pushes out away that low on Thursday, putting down a cold northerly wind on Thursday. Little bump of high pressure taking us into Friday, but very quickly low pressure's back in off the Atlantic next weekend. So showers along with spells of rain. Tightly packed ice bars next weekend, so it will remain windy with gales possible at times. That's day 10. Low pressure is parked over the country, so will remain unsettled and quite cool as well. The air is being pulled in from the North Atlantic, so pretty chilly, certainly cold enough for wintry showers in the north. In the extended range, where we tried to build up a little bump of high pressure, but it looks like its days are numbered really, as the next lows are rolling in from off the Atlantic. That's how we finish up with this particular GFS run. It's Monday the 18th of March. We're having a go at building some high pressure across France, Spain and Portugal, but for us it's still this low pressure driving in from off the Atlantic, bringing more showers or longer spells of rain. 5-day accumulated precipitation based on that GFS run at theweatheroutlook.com is looking like this. So it's going to be a pretty wet 5 days to come. All places having much needed and very useful rainfall in the next 5 days. The wettest weather in the south and west, around 40 to 50 millimetres through much of Wales, southwest England and along the south coast. Southwest Scotland, northwest England, also 30 to 50 millimetres there. Further east, it's not as wet as that, but we are talking about kind of like 20 millimetres, maybe one or two places going to 25 millimetres in the Midlands. That's an inch of rain. Very, very useful indeed. The 10-day precipitation totals even wetter, so the driest areas are across eastern Scotland and eastern England, but even here in the next 10 days we're talking about sort of 20 to 40 millimetres in most of those eastern counties. But wettest weather is in the west, where some places are being forecast to get quite close to 100 millimetres actually. For example, we've got North Wales there on around 94 millimetres. That could be over something like Snowdonia. Most places won't be as wet as that, but probably between around sort of 50, 75 millimetres, definitely possible across these western areas. 75 millimetres is 3 inches, so significantly wet in the west, and even in the east it is going to be a lot wetter than we've had recently. I think there's going to be very, very useful, this rainfall over the next 10 days. We really do need it to start getting the rivers and reservoirs and groundwater levels increase. So this is going to be very, very useful. Parallel GFS run also looks unsettled, so showers on Tuesday before we bring this low pressure in off the Atlantic on Wednesday. That's going to bring heavy rain with it. Really unsettled through Thursday to Friday, putting down colder air from the north as well later in the week. And then next weekend, the Atlantic remains in charge of weather. More low pressure brings showers or longer spells of rain. Moving up to day 10. No change, that is the chart for day 10, Tuesday 12th of March. The low pressure is parked over the top of the country, so it is a case of showers or longer spells of rain. Quite cool too, probably cold enough for wintry showers in the north. Bit of a north-northeasterly there on Wednesday the 13th of March. That could bring more widespread wintry showers to northern and eastern parts of the country. And all the time just keep it unsettled into the extended range. Low pressure remains moving in off the Atlantic Ocean. That's how we finish up with this parallel GFS run on Monday the 18th of March, and it's very unsettled. Atlantic is well and truly unleashed. ECMWF, showery for Tuesday, more prolonged rain moving in off the Atlantic on Wednesday to Thursday. The low pressure pulls away on Friday. It's slightly quieter down Friday, but it's not long at all before we're back to low pressure next weekend, bringing further showers or longer spells of rain, and these very unsettled conditions take us up to day 10. We saw it on the 500 millibar high to anomaly flow chart from the Penn State University earlier in the video, so it's not a surprise. That's how we end up at day 10, Tuesday the 12th of March. Is windy and showery and quite cool too. The air is coming out of Greenland and the North Atlantic, so certainly cold enough for winter showers, I would have thought. Up in the north, these are the scenarios within the GFS ensembles via the postage stamps at the Icelandic Met Office. So at day 10, which is of course the 12th of March, we've got 51 out of 51 members of the ECM ensembles, that's 100%, including the control and operational ECM runs that just look very, very unsettled, with low pressure somewhere close to the UK, generally a little bit further north, but a trough of low pressure is around the UK, really unsettled too, bringing winds in off the Atlantic. So that's about as unsettled as it can get. And we've got 51 out of 51 members of the ECM ensembles agreeing about that. In 2 weeks' time, the ECM ensembles look like this. It's the 17th of March, 360 hours. So we've got the control and a further 17, which in total is 18 members of the ECM ensembles that still look really unsettled. They have below average heights over and to the east of the UK as a deep trough. They are raising a bit of a ridge in the North Atlantic and up towards Greenland. So not only are these unsettled scenarios, they are also trying to bring in colder air into that trough as well. They're turning things a bit colder, I think, into the second half of March, with maybe an increased wintry potential. Now, there's 17 more members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure out to the west, so they're unsettled, but they're milder, bringing the winds in from a west-southwesterly direction. And then there's 16 with a trough of low pressure over Scandinavia and a bit of a ridge in the North Atlantic. So again, they're quite unsettled and they're quite chilly too, with the winds in from the northwest. Overall, it looks like even 2 weeks away, the ECM ensembles are pretty unsettled, I have to say, and maybe hinting again a bit colder around the middle of the month too. Finally, CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 2nd through to the 8th of March, with low pressure in charge, below average heights over and to west of the UK, and bringing in this westerly flow. So again, the Atlantic is back in business and it's going to bring showers or longer spells of rain, and potentially at times some quite stormy weather too. Bit of a change in week 2 with the CFS. This is the 9th to the 15th of March. The low pressure is moving more towards our north as heights are rising to the south. Now, there's no real sign of this within the shorter range model output, so the GFS, the ECM are not really showing this, these height rises from the south. The winds are still off the Atlantic. It's probably still quite unsettled up to the north, but the southern and western areas is probably turning drier and a little bit milder as well. So the CFS is trying to get us back towards high pressure in week 2, the 9th to the 15th of March. That's typical of what's been going on since last summer, when any unsettled spell has tended to be quite brief, and quickly the heights have started rising from the Azores high, and we get back to high pressure very quickly. So that's been the trend that we've been in since last summer for around sort of 9-10 months. You would probably expect that to be the way things are going to go, but there's absolutely no sign of that within the shorter range GFS and ECM output. So at the moment, the CFS is quite isolated on that. Week 3, which is the 16th to the 22nd of March, has the above average heights, the high pressure then out to our west, with a trough through Scandinavia. So that is reasonably dry. It's blocking off the Atlantic again. but it's quite chilly, maybe even quite cold, bringing the winds down from sort of Greenland and Iceland. We're just on the periphery of a direct northerly there. Actually, we'd only have to reach that high pressure a little bit further north towards Greenland, and we'd be probably bringing down a cold northerly. Again, not much sign of that within the shorter range model output. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 23rd to the 29th of March, and then the high pressure really is strengthening then over into the south of the UK. That's turning much drier, but also much milder, much warmer even, bringing winds up from quite a long way south around that ridge of high pressure. The CFS wants to get us back to high pressure quite quickly. There's no sign of it up to mid-month with the GFS and the ECM, but that's not to say that the CFS is wrong, because as I say, this has been a consistent trend that we've been in. It's a reason we're so very dry, but we've never been able to make up the rainfall deficit, because when it has become unsettled, and we have had periods of unsettled weather since last summer, but they've tended to be very brief and not last all that long before the ridge builds back up from the Azores high again. So although there's no sign of that happening up to middle of March within the GFS and the ECM output, just because it's been such a consistent trend since last summer, I don't think we could discount the possibility that actually in the end high pressure could come back quite quickly. But at the moment, the shorter range output wants to keep things very unsettled up to the middle of March, even beyond the middle of March in terms of the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. And so we can't discount the CFS, but it's probably at the moment relatively low chance of that Azores high strengthening very quickly. But again, we can't discount it because it has been such a consistent trend for that to happen since last summer. At the moment, though, I think we go with the idea that it's very unsettled up to the middle of March, and then we should wait and see where things take us in the second half of the month. Right, that's your videos for today. So don't forget to check out the spring analogues if you haven't yet done so. It's going to be placed on the spring updates page this evening with a written summary. Tomorrow, the first video up will be the GalService.com spring 2019 forecast, so you'll be able to see what we're forecasting for spring. By the way, I know a lot of you are waiting for the verification of the winter forecast. I think that's going to be with you very shortly. It's going to be quite an interesting video indeed, because the GalService.com winter forecast went terribly wrong. But nevertheless, we will give you that verification, and you'll be able to see exactly how the forecast performed against the season itself, against the winter. It wasn't very good, I have to say, but you'll be able to see that verification sometime next week. So back to tomorrow. We're going to have the spring forecast, first video up, and then the GalService Sunday roundup will be with you tomorrow as well. So keep checking back for all of the updates. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.